And we're back. For those just tuning in, this is 103.7 FM, WPWL, Pauling Public Radio. You're listening to Marcy's World. I'm your host, Dr. Nancy Iankowitz, and we are reviewing the 4 major parenting styles that child psychologists and even some philosophers over the past few decades have come to understand umbrella most ways of raising our children. So we discussed authoritative and authoritarian. Authoritative was the more positive way of creating open communication at home by offering guidelines and support. Authoritarian is more like, do it my way because I said so. Now we're going to talk about neglectful. Neglectful parenting, and again, we have a studio audience, and feel free to chime in. Neglectful parenting is one of the most harmful styles, according to psychologists, that can be used on a child. Neglectful parenting is unlike the other styles in that parents rarely fluctuate naturally into neglectful parenting as a response to child's behavior. If a parent recognizes themselves as being a neglectful parent, or if a friend recognizes it, it's important to understand that those parents and the children involved need assistance because, again, it is not a natural fluctuation, it's more of a default. It's a default position because the parent lacks certain parenting skills that are essential to appropriately respond to the needs of the child. So, it's not to point a finger at you, but if you do suspect that you or a friend may be a neglectful parent, consider the following. And this is how you'll know if you are, and then there are steps to take to correct it. Do you care for your child's needs emotionally, physically, and otherwise? If you don't, or if you're lacking, that's something that you may need to learn how to do. Do you have an understanding of what's going on in your child's life? Does the home provide a safe space for the child where they can share experiences and expect positive feedback rather than negative or no feedback? If the answer is no, you can use some tools. Do you spend long periods of time away from home, leaving the child alone? If the answer is yes, again, you might need some tools. Do you often find yourself making excuses for not being there for your child? Do you know your child's friends? Do you know their teachers? Are you involved in your child's life outside the home? So if the above has yes and no answers that describe somebody that you know in not the healthiest light, you need to reach out for some help, and I'll offer you that in a minute. Neglectful parenting is damaging to children because the children lack trust in their foundation, and this is something that carries over into life and can disrupt their health and wellness. Before reaching anywhere else, reach out to your pediatrician. That's the best resource for you because your pediatrician knows your child and can also measure your child's health and wellness and allergies and things like that. So if you find yourself being a neglectful or an authoritarian parent, you may need the help of your pediatrician to help straighten that out. Let's talk a little bit about permissive. Unless somebody wants to say something about neglectful. No? Permissive parenting is also known as indulgent parenting, and it's another potentially harmful style of parenting. These parents are responsive, but they're not demanding at all, and they tend to be lenient while trying to avoid confrontation. The benefit of this parenting style is that they're usually very nurturing and loving, but the negatives outweigh the benefit. They don't set enough rules for their children, and rules are inconsistent when they do set them. This lacks structure because the children grow up with very little self-discipline and very little self-control. Some parents adopt this method as an extreme opposite approach to their authoritarian upbringing. So if somebody was raised by an authoritarian parent, that person might become an authoritarian parent or a wonderful parent. And you don't know if they'll break the mold that way. But they can swing in the opposite direction by becoming overly permissive. And there are reasons why we do this, and we can get mental health providers on our team to help us sort it out. Some parents adopt this method because they really want to reject their own parents, and others are just simply afraid to do anything that can upset their children. So how can you recognize if you're a permissive parent? Do you have limits set, or do you tend to not set limits at home for your child? Do you often compromise on your rules just to accommodate your child's mood? So if your child says, I don't want to, you go, okay, you don't have to, here's a lollipop, just don't throw a fit. That's permissive. Do you avoid conflict with your child? Are you afraid to say, oh, don't wear your hair like that, or you don't look well in that, or do you have a willingness to be your child's, an over-willingness to be your child's best friend rather than be their parent? So you'd rather just go along with whatever they say? Oh, you believe this and you think that taking drugs is a good idea? Yeah, go for it. That's not what you would want to do if you're a healthy parent. Do you often bribe your child to do things with large rewards? If you do this when you're 17, I'm going to buy you a Mercedes-Benz. Think about that. So the traits described in the above question marks, in the above, makes you ask yourself, if I do more of these in this way, I am a permissive parent. So let me just do that again. These traits described in the above outline what it is to be an overly permissive parent. Now, it may seem as though this would be a child's favorite parenting style because it provides a sense of freedom without consequence. However, children crave a sense of structure to make them feel safe, and it's important in a child's development. There has to be clear-cut parenting and child limit testing going on. These are roles that are healthy and are assumed. Anybody want to weigh in on this in the studio?
Not yet.
No? Okay. It's coming. My daughter is she parents me very well sometimes.
No.
Permissive, I know I'm going to get in trouble. This is another argument. Here it comes. You can tell I'm not afraid of arguing with my daughter. In a study published in Scientific Journal of Early Adolescence, it was found that teens with permissive parents are 3 times more likely to engage in heavy underage alcohol consumption, and they tend to limit tests concerning the law. It's likely to do their lack of oh my goodness.
All over.
I'm so sorry. This is likely due to their lack of self-confidence for their behavior, and they're trying to find their way in the world by stretching out to grab rungs of the ladder to climb out of the pit of childhood. But if you keep widening the borders, they can't grasp those rungs to climb out. You're not doing anybody any favors. There are other damaging effects of permissive parenting, and they include insecurity in children from lack of those boundaries, poor social skills, they don't share well, they lack discipline, they're self-centered, they might not even do well in school, they lack motivation, and they clash with authority, as indicated. So I know you want to be your child's friend. You should do that as a parent, not as a buddy. Permissive parents have to set boundaries and rules, and once you do it, even if you've been a permissive parent for the past 10 years, you can flip this around. Now your child's 11, and you say, okay, now that you're 11, ba-boom, and things change. The point is, it should have been going on since they were born, but you know what, whatever. You grow, then you can offer them the results of your growth, which would serve them well. Something from the studio audience, yes.
What do you think about the Gilmore Girl relationship?
The Gilmore Girls.
And let's define what I mean by Gilmore.
Yeah, what do you mean by that? It's a TV show with a daughter who basically raised her mother, because her mother was like, from my perspective now, I'm the adult. I'm an adult. You're an adult too, but you're a child. I see the Gilmore Girls on 2 separate levels. One, they had a very respectful, caring, trusting relationship with each other. I like that part. The other part is that Lorelai, who is the mother, tend to be more of a loose cannon. Really, I did not appreciate some of her rebellious ways, although I understood she had to cut her own path. And she put her daughter, I forgot the daughter's name?
Rory.
she put her daughter in the role of mother, where the daughter had to be so much more mature than the mother was on multiple occasions.
I think it's a really good example that it's the child won't exactly be a product of the type of parenting, but the parenting should also gauge the child and see what's a good fit. I think that in that very unique situation, that was the ideal way to raise.
Oh,
Rory.
you like that?
But I think it's just too.
I agree with you. I'm interrupting you, and I'm sorry about that, but I do agree with the fact that because Rory, the character, was so mature, Lorelai could be as permissive and buddy as she was.
But I think a lot of young mothers or single mothers,
they don't realize,
with daughters, try to fit into that mold, and if, I don't know, I use the word lucky, it's a very unique reality, and I think a lot of harm can come out of it if you don't have the exact characters that are depicted on the screen.
Well, you don't have your life written out for you by a script writer. Yeah. But now right there, though, that's like such a perfect example, because Lorelai had authoritarian parents.
Yes.
And Lorelai became an overly permissive mother. Lucky for Lorelai, she had a mature daughter.
Who permitted that.
Because if she didn't, that would have been a really big problem, because she was overly permissive, and that's an example of, blending parenting skills. You need to know your child to get into it. So I'm going to, this has been very, very heavy. Are there any other points anybody wants to make? We have some guys in the studio audience. Nobody has anything they want us to know. I was like, stay away from me, get away from me. Okay, so nobody wants to be put on the spot. One more thing, anything from you, Jess?
I think what works for one kid might not work for another, and that's when parenting becomes a science and an art. And having extra help is not, failing in any sense, but just recognizing what's best for the family unit and trying to do good by your kids.
Bringing a mental health provider onto the team is essential. By the time your child is 8 or 9 years old, you will know. If you want to be a permissive parent, you will know that that is just not working with your child. Get help. Talk to your pediatrician. Get help on the team. There was another point by a guy. No, you didn't want to make that point? So you want to, oh. He's just indicating time.
Okay.
Okay, so what I want to do now is leave the listening audience with an excerpt from A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. This excerpt was made famous by Nelson Mandela in one of his speeches. I deliver this as part of my speech whenever I speak at a college graduation or whatever. This is very important for all you parents, no matter what parenting skills you bring to the table, no matter what stressors or limit testing surprises your kids can bring to the family unit. Keep this in mind, by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make I am so sorry, Marianne Williamson, who's still alive, thank God. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. We are liberated from our own fear. All right, Marianne Williamson, I'm doing this again. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Thanks so much for listening. This is Marcy's World with all the mistakes, 103.7 FM, Bowling Public Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Nancy Yankowitz. I wish you peaceful parenting, happy family unit. Stay tuned for intermission with